So we're in the second half of John 11. We see Jesus at the tomb of Lazarus, right? And Jesus tells him, roll the stone away. And imagine you're at a funeral and someone asks you to dig up the casket and open it up, even though they were buried days ago. But they start to do it, and then someone stands up and is like, hey, just so you know, he's been dead for like 4 days, so he's about to stink. Like, this is a bad idea, because he's dead. Like, they'd already had the professional mourners come in, people who were paid to cry and express the grief of the family. They had already, done the burial rituals. They had done everything, by all accounts, was done. But who knows, it's never done until Jesus says it's done. So they roll the stone back, and Jesus stands at the entrance and prays out loud. He says, Father, thank you for hearing my prayers as you always do. And he's correcting the belief the people there, and lots of us reading sometimes fall into, which is that if our expectations aren't met, then God must not be listening to our prayers. So he just rips that false belief in half and goes on to then point into the tomb and shout. And the volume of his voice is not related to the magnitude of the miracle required, but it does demonstrate his expectation level. He is confident that God is going to raise Lazarus from the dead, so he shouts, Lazarus, come out. And some theologians theorize that he called him by name because he didn't want all the dead, to just rise up, at the command of God. He needed to specify who was getting up so they all wouldn't get up. And I just love that. Just reminds you of the power of God. And so he shouts, and Lazarus comes walking out, all wrapped up, in the linens from his burial. And growing up, I always kind of imagined this scene like a scene from Scooby-Doo with a cartoon mummy kind of like walks out. But really, it was likely way more freaky of a scene, than like something out of like The Walking Dead, right? Like Jesus just called a dead man out of a tomb, right? And then he goes on to tell his disciples, he just says, hey, go unwrap him. Like, the zombie, mummy thing that just walked out of the tomb all wrapped up, Jesus is like, hey, you go unwrap him. It would seem, I would be pretty uneasy if I was a disciple in this moment, right? But here's the application and the beautiful part about this moment. Jesus does the heavy lifting by raising him from the dead, but the disciples are called to do the scary, uncomfortable, uneasy job of unwrapping him so he can experience the new life God just gave him. Like, he has life, but he's bound. He can't express it. He can't experience this new life. And the picture I see here is that you can be alive in Christ, but still be bound. It says they were told to unwrap his head, his hands, his feet, because if you don't unwrap his head, he won't know where he's going. If you don't unwrap his hands, he doesn't have the ability to serve God. If you don't unwrap his feet, he's going to trip over and over again. Here's the point I'm trying to make. If you want to experience the new life offered in Christ, you need someone alongside you to help with the practical side of a new life. Someone to say, hey, that's the old way, not the new way. Doing that, saying this, watching that, living this way is the old way, but remember, you have a new life in Christ. Maybe you need that. Maybe you need to be that for someone else. It can be uncomfortable, it can be awkward or difficult to do that, but it's so worth it. Jesus is the author and, offering of new life, and he invites us to join with him in helping others walk in freedom and stay free, right? This is the invitation. We are the disciples in a situation where we have an invitation to go and walk with others in freedom, help them unbound themselves, right? This is the invitation.